A bon mot. A fluctuation of words concluding with a trick ending.
That's the dictionary meaning. I'm talking about humor, fun. Do you know what funny is?
So, we have episode 4 of Star Trek Next Generation, series 2, The Outrageous Okona, whereby the Enterprise rescues a captain of a rundown freighter, only to become embroiled in a dispute between feuding planets. Rick Burman demanded that somebody write an episode about a character that was very similar to him, or at least similar to how he sees himself. Rick outlined the character of Thadian Okona. He described the character as attractive, a high-caliber ladies' man, and as a charming rogue. Rick even made sure to give the character the name Thadian, which was of course possibly Rick's middle name. Now, if you study Star Trek carefully, you might notice that the character of Okona is only in one episode of Star Trek. Now, actor William Campbell, who plays Captain Okona, had always been a smoker since he was 11, and he'd been a smoking character in every TV and movie role up until now. During his first scene of Star Trek, he pulled out a cigarette and started smoking. Many actors immediately complained and moved away from him. For a while, the production stopped while the episode's director, Robert Becker, not to be confused with a different Robert Becker, gave the actor a talking to about not smoking inside the Star Trek studio. Apparently, the actor went straight to the executive producers after this and complained, demanding that the character be allowed to smoke off some cigarettes during his scenes. But again, he was given the red light. After this, he decided that he'd never appear in Star Trek again after this episode. Around the time of producing The Outrageous Okona, things were heating up between Star Trek and its science fiction rival, Short Circuit 2. In an interview on News Today, Short Circuit's Fisher Stevens ate a banana during an interview, laughing, obviously mocking Patrick Stewart's love for bananas. Fisher would go on to compare the actors from Star Trek to the actors in Short Circuit, admitting that the Star Trek actors were more satisfied in their work than the Short Circuit actors.
No, it seems to me that there's not as much, they don't mess around as much. They're satisfied.
He would add that the Star Trek actors were more satisfied because they weren't trying very hard anymore, whereas the Short Circuit actors were always striving to be better. He even specifically mentioned Data is particularly lazy and boring, whereas Johnny Five from Short Circuit is full of exciting energy. Did you take the time to look at William Riker and notice something was different about him from Series 1? That's because in Series 2 he has a big boy beard. During the first series, Gene Roddenberry told Patrick Stewart that he wanted Picard to have a beard to make him look maybe more thought-provoking, but due to a tragic skin condition, Patrick was unable to sprout facial hair. In a bid to make Gene like him more, Rick Burman allegedly went to Riker actor and told him to grow a beard as a nice surprise for Gene. When production meetings for Series 2 began and Gene saw Frakes enter the office with a beard, he began to weep, sobbing quietly and smiling as he poured himself a neat coffee.
That is considered to be funny?
Whoopi Goldberg makes her Series 2 Episode 4 debut here as the tropical spacefaring barmaid and listener. No relation, of course, to the popular WCW wrestler Bill Goldberg. She decided that she would lower herself to appear on cable television because she was enamoured by prior Star Trek character Uhura. She never really liked Uhura much at all until she heard Uhura's tantalising singing.
Look to the sky every morning.
And then realised that Uhura's memorable dance in Star Trek V was something to behold. Once she saw Star Trek V, she possibly said in a popular interview, "That could have been me swaying like that on that planet of galactic peace to attract some dusty guards. I knew Star Trek is my next challenge." Now, as you might know, in the America area, there's a deli container called a golapkin. It's primarily used for keeping creamed gammon held upright and is made of a stiff and yet light plastic. When the wardrobe team were looking for a flat wedge-shaped item to build Guinan's peculiar hat from, wardrobe supervisor Milv Slidridge remembered the Godolphin. He brought it in, draped it with fabric, its smooth base facing the sky like a gammon balancing prayer layer. Initially, Guinan actress Whoopi Goldberg complained that the headdress smelled like a mouldy old lunchbox, a stench of old cheese and ham that would never seem to leave, but over the years she got used to it and really began to love it. Around this time in 1988, Brent Spiner started telling people that he was the Arnold Schwarzenegger of Star Trek.
Really? I don't know, I like to think of myself more as the Schwarzenegger of the show, you know?
He would work out for up to 15 minutes a day and confront certain Star Trek enemies with stoic conviction, but Gene Roddenberry had to pull him aside and tell him he was actually nothing like Arnold at all. Aside from sharing a love of action figures and having dark hair, and both having worked on the children's cartoon The Raccoons, Data and Arnold Schwarzenegger had very little in common.
That is, until Bert Raccoon wakes up.
That's funny. Why? It would take too long to explain. Tell me another joke.
In the scene when Okona is piloting his ship, we hear some rock music playing in the background. It's the uncredited band Fex with the song Subways of Your Mind. Which was written specifically for this episode and is the only time in Star Trek Next Generation when a rock band was commissioned to write a song for an episode. The other time this happened was during Season 6, when the Gimme's song Licensed to Shockwave was played during the scene when Data's arm melts away. Speaking of Data's arm, in the scene in The Outrageous Okona, when Data's arm breaks off, it was achieved by hiring an amputee who was filmed from behind to hide his face so that you couldn't tell that he actually looked nothing at all like Brent Spiner. In actual fact, the actor that they used looked more like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Did you ever wonder why the seats at the front of the bridge of the Enterprise were so long, like dentists' chairs, and that you could nearly lie down in them? It always looks like Wesley and Data are lounging around sitting in those chairs. That's because when they were made, the measurements were taken down in Hollywood inches rather than normal inches. Now, Hollywood inches are a special scale which is only used in Hollywood, usually to the detriment of the production, because things end up just too big. A Hollywood inch is 1.8 inches long, meaning that anything made or ordered in Hollywood inches is usually nearly twice as big as needed. Also of note is that the Hollywood inch has a special E at the end of the word, which is quite unnecessary. Sometimes I really wish Hollywood inches just didn't exist. Very good actress Terry Hatcher makes her Star Trek debut here, meaning that this is the very first episode that she's ever in. It also marks another notch in the collection of Star Trek episodes which feature Bond girls. By the end of The Next Generation, possibly up to 10 Bond girls have been featured in the show, all using the screen name of Ensign Drabe. Terry Hatcher is the only Bond girl from Tomorrow Never Dies that would ever appear in Star Trek, as Tomorrow Never Dies' only other main female actress is Michelle Yeoh, who would never, of course, go on to be in Star Trek before Star Trek finished in Star Trek Enterprise in 2005. Thanks very much for watching my very amazing and interesting facts. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you want to follow the amazing facts about Star Trek that I just amazingly managed to find as time goes on. Hopefully I'm going to cover every episode of Star Trek all the way through to the end of Star Trek Enterprise. So yes, I'm afraid that does come to 1 million episodes, and that's just good news. So happy Christmas, happy Halloween, happy autumn, and thanks very much for watching. Ta-ta!